Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and take a look at hotspots for the markets today, Friday, May 6th. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, as always, the CEO of Keep Trading Simple, Brian Caprice. Today, not going to be like our discussion yesterday. We've had a few wild days in the markets. We've had some pretty significant volatility this morning. Right now, everything's a little bit on pause. We just did have the unemployment numbers, the non-farm payroll for the U.S. It is still a bit of a tight labor market. Unemployment still hovering in that 3.5, 3.6 area. But what we're seeing in the markets in general, equities were down, then they were up a little bit. Now they're down a little bit. We're hovering near flat as we wait for the retail trader to get in and digest those employment figures. But I don't know. We had an entire retracement, a parabolic retracement yesterday. Wednesday we had the markets took off on the Fed. Yesterday we were looking for that pullback. Well, we got an entire pullback. Markets got routed. We were seeing volatility in energies today. Oil still up near 110. Nat gas did punch a little higher. Gold moved around a little bit. So the commodities have moved, but as of right now, not a lot going on in the commodities, not a lot going on in FX, not a lot going on in the indices. So not going to be as dynamic today as it was the last couple of days. In any case, we are going to take a quick look at headlines and the charts. But before we do that, I do need to share that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And yeah, look at that. I'm just going to zoom in on this just so we can see when the employment figures came out. We did get a spike. We did get one green candle, but it actually almost looks like a shooting star, which means it's going to be a reversal. Yeah, and now this candle's even setting up as red. But again, not a lot of movement. You can see we're going very much sideways. Some very brief excitement. And other than that, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Here, Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you, and
Sure.
let's just kind of quickly run through where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, currency is overnight, more or less stabilized. There's a few that are moving. Dollar CAD is up 82, dollar yen is up 79. Basically, everything that we kind of assumed that we were going to get from Wednesday, we got the opposite on Wednesday, and then yesterday it all came back in hard as the market basically said, "Okay, it's nice that that's what they are going to do, but this is what we're going to do." And
Yeah.
again, that's the reality of it. I heard there was an interesting statement yesterday, and I don't necessarily agree with the first part of the statement. But it was interesting that they mentioned that people say that you can't time the market. I kind of disagree with that, but they say that people can't time the market. So why do we think that the Fed could time inflation? And was kind of disagreeing. And again, in the same article, they also mentioned really OPEC and oil. It was basically it was somebody from the oil industry, one of the smaller companies, and they made comments about it and basically said that we need OPEC. We should be over there trying to mend ties with OPEC, and the worst thing that we could do, and this is an American company, said that the worst thing that we could be doing is having a strained relationship with Saudi Arabia. That they're the only ones that can help, and it's only a little bit that they can do, but we shouldn't be having an adversarial relationship. So it is very interesting with everything we see in the last 48 hours with raising interest rates, not raising interest rates, and then we got this non-farm payroll news. And you can consider it kind of a split. I mean, average hourly earnings, there was an adjustment. So there was an adjustment to how much they got paid before, which is great. It was revised up 0.1. And then this time the average, it was down 0.1. So kind of on track, not, it's kind of a split number. It's kind of hard to read when you're like, wait a second, are we getting paid more? Are we not getting paid more? Non-farm employment change, higher than expected. And remember, the excuse of why they had to be extremely cautious was because they're extremely light labor market is extremely tight. But
Yeah.
they missed this forecast by 30-something thousand jobs. So, a green number there. And the unemployment rate, it didn't drop, but it didn't go up. So I mean, yes, it's a red number, but it didn't really change. And remember, there's a lot to that. Again, a lot more people, getting hired back. But it's like, wait,
I
but
mean, that's
why didn't
against
the
the
rate turn?
forecast, and it's 0.1%.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if it were at like 9%, 0.1 wouldn't be as big. But I mean, it should have been, something marketing. So I mean, 2 out of the 3 numbers are red. Again, one of them is adjustment, so it's kind of weird. And looking at this, a lot of people are like, wow, this is kind of a, how do you read this? So it's one of those days that after the last 2 days, you're going to have a lot of people with market volatility hangover. They may just be kind of wash it out. I mean, if you look at kind of the biggest news, this is one thing that came out just about uh, you know, not even an hour ago. Um, the Bank of England, the Pill, again, one of the people on kind of their board, UK inflation may be becoming more persistent. Remember, the one thing that we do keep hearing is, hey, it's transitory. It'll go down. We'll reach neutral in sometime in the next 10 years. But no, there's more people starting to acknowledge that it's becoming more persistent. We're seeing it. Um,
So
yeah,
transitory doesn't mean persistent.
yeah. I mean, even the ECB is saying inflation is too
Yeah.
high. The window for the ECB to act is closing. The ECB must get on with normalizing policy. I'm optimistic about a 2022 move. Again, remember the ECB's biggest issue is the Ukraine, but looking back at the headlines for today, there's nothing from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So it's still happening. Billions of dollars are still getting sent over there, but there's no real headlines. It's not becoming the Russian foreign minister. We will not use nuclear weapons in the Ukraine. That's considered a minor thing. And the first comment is not this week, at least, right?
Well,
So,
yeah. But
it's
are they? Is that just?
weird.
Is that being qualified by the Ukraine? Is the rest of the globe still okay for them to shoot at? We
Oh,
won't use
yeah,
them
I
in
don't
the
know. This is the Russian
Ukraine.
foreign minister. It
I
doesn't
didn't
have.
say anything about other
Yeah,
parts
yeah.
of Europe
Poland.
or North.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about Poland, guys. So,
Ay,
and then
ay,
the
ay.
EU, the oil embargo will not be easy, but we cannot, over the long term transfer money to Russia, given its values.
Yeah.
It's and here's the worst part about it, about this whole thing. When you looked at the FBI, they didn't say that Russia is the number one threat to the United States. Who did they say? They said
They
China,
did.
right?
Yeah.
China is the number one threat. So they're not going to send money here, but what is it going to do? It's going to provide cheap oil to the number one threat.
Yeah.
So it's like it's. I feel like there's a lot of near term kind of short sightedness. We'll reduce our independence on Russian gas. Russia is no longer a trustworthy partner.
You know what's really
It's
frustrating? And there's
but
an article today in the Wall Street Journal, and you can catch it. Um, but it was really all these coffins that are getting sent home to Russia, and there's a lot of them going. They all believe, I mean, the Wall Street Journal, they had reported, they're interviewing these people, and they all believe that this is the Third Reich has come back and they're denazifying the Ukraine. It's the strangest, I mean, honestly, the propaganda machine in Russia for what they're actually thinking they're doing in reality, it's kind of frightening that in this day and age, you can misinform people that grossly and they just simply don't have access to the truth. And they think
yeah.
they're fighting the Nazis and it's an extension of World War II.
Well,
Um,
perception is reality. I mean,
so,
that's
well, for
that's
the
that's
Russians, well, they're getting a bunch of body bags back. So it's just like World War II. Yeah, it is, except no one's with
yeah.
them. So aren't they scratching
Well,
their
not
head like,
yeah.
why isn't
I
the
wouldn't
rest
say
of the world
no one.
joining us?
Yeah, I wouldn't say no one. I mean, no one else is fighting, but I mean, China is definitely supporting them, and I don't think there's any debate over that. I mean, they refuse to acknowledge that there's anything wrong with what they've done. And I think this is for me, the scariest part about this is, if you were in Taiwan, I think the next shoe to drop is
Right.
China's going to go
Is
through
China
and
goes,
take that
oh,
over.
look, if this is what the world's going to
Yeah.
do. I don't know.
And
So,
remember, Ukraine is sovereign, Taiwan is not. So
yeah,
that's the scariest part. I feel bad for those people, but I think
yeah.
that's what's coming.
Anyhow,
And you
we
got to realize,
digress. We
yeah,
digress.
it's
Yeah,
it's
let's
it's
get
crazy.
into
Yeah.
these charts this morning because we do. I
Yep.
mean, nat gas is moving a little bit, and
Yeah,
the
I mean,
equities.
yeah, I mean, the equities took big rebounds. I wanted to start with the commodities first on this
Okay.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crude oil, again, we talked about crude oil coming down and popping, and there's a bit of a retracement yesterday, but then it popped back up, and we're still sitting around that 111. And that's kind of why I jumped over into the vendor and the energy. We're gonna we're gonna get off get off their oil, but the reality is we can't yet. We're still sitting at 111, and if you decide to cut off part of the supply, that doesn't do well for this price. And I mentioned before, the price is getting up, potentially even back up into that 115 range.
Yep.
I think this is a very scary spot right now. If you look to see kind of where, actually, here, we'll move this back, even though it came back down to the right levels. When you look at the last draw, we're kind of sitting, the 50 was a big deal on the way down. Again, we hit it, dropped, hit it, dropped, hit it, dropped, and now it popped through. It kind of retraced all the way back up again. And now if we go from low to high, looking for areas where people are going to get back in, that same area is now popping up. And I'll just adjust this and steal it just because it's easy. There's the 50%. So we're coming into a U.S. session and more talk about how we're just going to just not use Russian oil anymore. We're not going to send them dollars. It's like, well, you're not sending them dollars anyway. They wanted rubles. It's different. But I think there's a buying area coming in here. And again, oil typically is not the biggest mover on a Friday. But as we roll into next week, there's more to the story. I think there's going to be more to it. So I think the area right around 108.50 is going to be a very interesting level rolling into not only today, and again, I wouldn't be surprised if we do take a little bit of a bounce off of this, just because, again, U.S. trader, we love our gas. Gas prices is high. They can't control gas. But again, we talk about what demand looks like. Well,
And by the way,
there's 40,000 more people that just got jobs that are going to need to be driving.
yep.
So,
And that actually, if you here, I'm just gonna. I mean, just we are in a little bit of a channel, and that would correspond to the bottom end of the channel right there.
right. Yeah.
From the last few days. So you've got two things kind of going. Hey,
Yeah, I mean, you have channel traders in there, you have supply and demand traders in there, you have fib traders coming back in there.
It's kind of, when there's several of them all lining up, you go,
Yeah, you got to wonder. Yeah. So I mean, there's a possible one. Natural gas. I think natural gas is important to talk about. We talked about this kind of bounce off. 867. We missed it by 2 cents, and then we talked about the next drive, and it drove forward. This one's gone. We'll take this one off. We'll remove this, leave that there for right now. But if you do the last draw, and funny enough, actually, we talked about 810 being the area where we'd buy again. We didn't get the bounce like I was hoping for, but it did go down to 811. 811.7. So I missed it by 1.7 cents. 1.7 pennies I missed the bottom by. And
oh,
back up
God,
again.
that's terrible.
I know. It drives me nuts, But this is where we're at right now.
Yeah,
we're also
50%.
pulling back and we're at the 50%. So there is no supply. There's no demand in here. So for me personally, it's not a big area that I'm looking at. I use fibs as the confirmation, but there are people that use just purely fibs. It is a level you need to watch out for. We are rolling into the U.S., and Germany just made statements about how, hey, we'll help all our landlocked friends with liquid natural gas. Here you go. It just came out 2 minutes ago. It's funny. Germany is ready to help everybody else, but Germany already said, hey, listen, if they cut off natural gas, it's going to be a 5%. It's going to put us into a recession. Yeah. And it's gonna lower our GDP by 5%. So,
hey, go back to your chart real quickly. Change that from a 30 to a 15, and leave your fibs on there. Yeah, it actually is a little bit of a level.
Yeah, there's a little level in there. Yeah,
a little level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of one of those like hidden. These are the ones. Like,
it was
15
in the 15.
Is a little small for this.
Yeah,
it's the zone formed at 12:15 in the afternoon, so it's kind of a it's there, but these are those ones that are like, look, I told you it work. I like to use the bigger ones just to smooth it out. I mean, I could go down and you can see the.
I know. I just wanted to kind of drop that in there because I was looking at it. Yeah, it's kind of there, and we are actually bouncing off of it right now as we speak on a 15.
Yeah. And again, the energies tend to go up more in the dollar section. So. Or in the U.S., main trading session. So, that's something you got to watch out for. Gold, I wanted to point this out as well. Gold kind of rallied back up, and we turned off that level yesterday at 9 o'clock, but that was really literally the top, and we talked about a potential reversal. It came all the way down, and I'll remove these fibs now real quick just to show it to you. We talked about a break of 1880 would be an area where we'd be looking for to really kind of overcome the racetrack and push it back down to the black line, which is really where the start of the FOMC news came from. As you can see, we went down, we basically pulled back, got an entry. Actually pulled back and got a second entry. Came through, blew through the target again. So again, there was that short trade that we mentioned on the yesterday morning program. Today, unfortunately, it looks like it's moving a little bit too fast. Here was the non-farm payroll news that just came in. It popped and stuck its head above the 50. And again, little sellers there. And we're starting to see it push back down again. I would say today, look for that 1860 again. The Fed can say one thing, but the market basically said something else. So that's what's happening, and that's why we saw the reversal yesterday. So I do think that 1860 is back on the table. We may not be able to get down to it today, but again, Sunday night, that could be a great little trade setup in there to be able to get short something when the contracts roll. Silver, already much, much lower. It didn't even have the same type of a pullback. I mean, I guess it got a little one. I mentioned, 22. Look, we missed it by just a little tiny bit. I mentioned 22 all week. I've been talking about 22, 20, 22. I was like, oh God, what is this? We got down to 22.08. And right now, not a whole lot stopping it on the way down. I think, again, there's still time to be right? We still have the entire day to get down to 22 by the end of the week. And again, Nadex could get a couple better long-term contracts on silver. I know it doesn't have the greatest volume trading-wise, but this is one of those ones that, again, gold and silver should go in the same direction. With silver, starting to accelerate lower, I think gold also picks up pace on that one.
Right.
VIX is up just a little bit today, but again, we had so much craziness yesterday. People are like, what the heck is going on? Oh my God, the world's ending. All it did was do what it was supposed to do, and again, it trapped everybody on Wednesday, and then reversed them yesterday. And the amount of money that was lost yesterday was enormous. But ES right now, you can see. We talked about buying levels, and we talked about the target at 41. I think they said it was like the worst day for the Dow or for all the indices since like the start of 2020. I guess the first kind of lockdown day of the pandemic. They said it was the worst. It was like the best day they had in like 10 years, and then it was the worst day they've had since the pandemic. And then before that, it was like 15 years or something like that, or 10 years or something.
There's some volatility in there right there.
Yeah, so you can see that it's slowed down, and the original zone was formed here. We hit it. We said that with the right conditions, there could potentially be a bounce, but that was really kind of where we were looking for a target. You can see there was a little hiccup in one candle, and then it said, "Not forget this." Boom, 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 and it used that same level that we had marked off before. And it's not coincidence. And a lot of people are like, "Well, how did you know that it was going to bounce here?" The answer is I didn't, but a lot of times the old buyers or sellers, reverse and flip, and that's why we had that kind of Harry Potter based trade. You can see that it's used that same level. Here's the original formation of the level. Here it pushed it, so I'm not really looking for longs, even though it did use it again. Again, it used it here, 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 and here.
Yep.
We're sitting at a racetrack right now. I got nothing clean until we get all the way down here to 460, or was it 470? Once we hit the 78, I no longer care about the fibs in that direction. If I do take it and draw it, oops. All right, if we do draw it in the other direction down, you can see that level just also happened to be at 23.6. And it's kind of like, how did you know that? I didn't. I just know that that's where level is, right? The 50 is a little far away. Again, the 50 is kind of all the way up top, but I think they're going to have a hard time breaking through that level. Not that the data today was inherently bad.
We have tested it, several times.
Yeah.
But with the liquidity that we've got going on, and with so much volatility, it's kind of hard to say.
And such negativity from yesterday, people after people lose a lot of money, like, you know what, I'm probably done for the week. The sentiment is still kind of negative there. So, not to say that it can't turn green today or bounce, but I would say if we're looking for a bounce, I'm really not. It's too late to get into a short now, but I'm looking at 40.6950. It's probably the area. And again, do I have a crystal ball? No. Do I know that that's the turning point? No. But I know that the last time we were down there, we had a strong push in a single base, and then boom, an explosion off of it. The only way to cause that type of explosion is there's a lot of buyers. So So for me, 40.69 NQ. Kind of the similar scenario. It's actually already pushed down, and you can see it's sliced in. And we talked about all the targets down here, and it's the same thing. It came back to 23.6. Looks very, very similar. This one has a little bit of buying just below it, but again, the negativity is. I mean, look at Tesla. Being down 8%, and it's trying to come back, but it didn't do much in the overnight. Didn't get much help, and even Apple. Great old Apple, all it did was came back, filled its gap, and is now also starting lower, not showing any signs that it's just ready to go. So MQ also looks like it could have a rough day. YM, very, very similar chart. Again, here's our two profit targets from yesterday. And, yesterday we were sitting right here. We were sitting right there yesterday. Whoops, right here at 9 o'clock. Okay. Mentioned doesn't look good. Racetrack. There's the push, but we have a level just like we had in the ES all the way down here. And I would say that right now for all of your shorts, 32,464 is kind of where you want to take your profit. Same scenario, drive, base, huge push. So
these charts are all the same.
It's unbelievable, right?
They're all the same chart.
I would say 1030. Look at 1030 as a potential reversal level. If not, if it comes down and holds in bases here around noon, again, it could be kind of an end of the day rally. I don't think it looks great, but again, end of the day rally. Same thing, 840 in the Russell, chopping back and forth. And again, if you drew it, it's going to be right around the 23.6 as well. Coming from this high to low, you can see right there. And it happens to be also the same level we had talked about before, the 1867, when it goes through.
Yep.
That's what it's chopping through. So cautious of all those.
We are going to have to start getting Bitcoin and Ethereum into our morning sessions.
Yep. I mean,
Obviously Nadex is owned by crypto.com, and you're going to see some, and at some point
we're
we'll do
under
some analysis.
36,000.
But
Yep.
it is
Yeah. I mean,
under 30.
we hit.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring it up because Bitcoin dropping down.
Yeah.
It's down 10%. It
FOMC,
broke
we
a
hit it
level.
right here.
Yeah.
Yep. FOMC, we hit 40,000 right when FOMC came out. We just happened, I mean, right at 2:30 when they were speaking, we hit 40,000 on the button. And then as soon as they talked about, yeah, we're going to raise the interest rates and this is why, boom, that's what
Down
brought
to
it down. And we went from
36.
$4,000 in 2 days in Bitcoin. Again,
Yeah.
because of rising the dollar. And again, now you can actually get money for holding the dollar where there's no dividend or anything else. And Ethereum back down to 26.
Yeah,
Even
that was
Dogecoin
from
hit
3,000,
its
and
land.
it's another 10% drop. 3,000 to
Yep.
20, or more than
Yep.
3,000.
And TLT continuing to go lower.
So,
we keep talking about this one. That this has just been an options player's dream, with TLT, because again, rising interest rate environment. So,
all right. So, well, we
that's it for
managed to
Friday.
cram a nice review in there this morning, across the board. But yeah, it's a quieter Friday. We'll see what the retail trader has to say when they get into the markets in 24 minutes. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian is also accessible. If you want to reach out to Brian, please email him, support@keeptradingsimple.com. I'm also accessible. I mean, Brian and I answer our own emails. Please feel free to email me. You got any things you'd like to see more of, less of, any questions, please email me, todd.rich@nadex.com. I'm not going to recap everything we went through, but it is a bit of a quiet morning. We're seeing equities going a bit sideways, maybe slightly negative. Not a lot of movement in FX, not a lot of movement in the commodities as well, though. Still seeing some strength in oil. Nat gas still kind of swing around out there. I hope everyone has a very safe weekend. Brian and I will be back on Monday morning, so hopefully you will join us then. If you like what we're doing, by the way, please give us a like on Facebook or YouTube. We do appreciate that. We will hopefully catch you Monday. In the meantime, good luck in the markets, everyone.